Okay, going home. My wife and I recently attended a barbecue at a friend's house. And as he was barbecuing, I sat outside with him and we were having a conversation about different topics. And one of the topics was about when we learned to barbecue and where we learned to barbecue. And I told him that I didn't learn to barbecue until I was already an adult and married. Not that it always matters, but growing up in a single parent home, there were a lot of things that I had to learn on my own. I didn't have anybody to teach me about them, and barbecuing was one of them. I think a story that illustrates this point is that when I was doing my student teaching, I was working at a school that was going to be having a barbecue. I didn't volunteer to barbecue for obvious reasons, but when they asked for volunteers to go pick up wood for the barbecue itself, I volunteered. So one Saturday morning, early in the morning, a group of fathers got together at the school and they all had pickup trucks and they all had access for each of us. There was about 20 men, and we were going out to a ranch to gather wood for the barbecue. Mesquite wood, that is. For those of you who are not familiar with mesquite wood, in Texas, it is very common to use this wood because it gives the meat a certain flavor. It was about an hour drive to the ranch, and when we got there, my intent was to show these men what a hard worker I was. And as soon as we got there, I jumped out of the truck and I had my axe in hand and I found the first mesquite tree that I could find and I started chopping it down. And I worked so hard at it and I was about halfway done when I noticed that all the men were just standing around and they were all staring at me. So I was almost done cutting down the tree that finally one of the men started to walk towards me. And so I stopped chopping and I looked at him and he said, Sir, we're here to pick up dried wood. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, we can't use green wood to barbecue. So obviously my feeling of pride in how hard I was working went down the drain, and instead it turned into embarrassment. So even though common sense should have told me that green wood would not make wood firewood, I didn't know. Nobody had ever taught me. And so it was a very embarrassing situation for me. And of course I felt bad for the tree that I had cut down. So there's a whole list of things that I could name about things that I had to figure out on my own. And some of them have very embarrassing stories to go along with them, because I've made a lot of mistakes along the way. But I've tried to learn from all the mistakes. And as I've grown older, I try to pass that knowledge to other people, so hopefully they will make the same mistakes that I made, especially young men. But as I've gotten older, I continue to learn and I continue to make mistakes. But hopefully I'm learning from those mistakes. But I am always willing to share my experiences with others, even the embarrassing ones. My goodness.